Hey guys, so we're looking at another map video from the YouTuber known as Khey. Yeah, I'm not sure I pronounced the K part right, but point is, we've seen another video from this YouTuber. I believe it was the Turkish War of Independence, or the Turks versus the Greeks. Either way, we have seen another map video of this, and today from this YouTuber, we're looking at the history of the Byzantine Empire every month. You know, I feel like this year we've watched so much Byzantine era content, it really did give me a shift on my perspective of the Roman Empire, as I have come to the conclusion or the feeling that the Byzantine era of Rome is actually my new favorite. I like it even more than when the West was around or when Rome was whole. I just like Byzantine era Rome. It's my new favorite, and you know, we're gonna be looking at a whole map of its existence that lasted what, like 1,000 years. So that's a pretty great run, you know. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to looking at this and just seeing and being pretty sad near the end, as I know we're gonna see it shrink until it's literally nothing. So, but that's just the lifeline of all empires. So yeah, I don't really have much else to say other than we should probably get to it, huh? The link to this video is down in the description down below, and if you enjoy my content and want to help me out, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. It would really help my small but humble channel grow, and I would be forever indebted to you. With that said, and without any further ado, let's get to it, shall we? Let's watch the history of the Byzantine Empire every month. That baby looks like a 50-year-old dude. Okay, so although the term Byzantine was invented about a century after the fall of Constantinople, around the year 1557, in order to differentiate ancient Rome from medieval Greek history, this video is going to keep the term Roman, as it should. Really, like, you know, the existence of the Eastern Roman Empire. I mean, I call it I use the term the Byzantine era of Rome, but it is just Rome at the end of the day. Like, it's literally the other part that didn't fall, you know? And it's interesting that I was looking at, like, some text on, like, the relationship between the Byzantine Roman Empire and the western parts of Europe, and, like, apparently that the Western Europeans would call Rome at this point the kingdom of the Greeks. Like, that's how they would refer to it as. It's just interesting that how much the West idolized the Roman Empire and wanted to be the Roman Empire, and yet the Roman Empire was still around, and they were beyond hostile towards the East. So that's kind of funny. And then eventually, once I just think it was jealousy. They just wanted to be Rome, and they hated the fact that Rome was still around. So when Rome eventually died, then you have the world, everyone complaining, who's the next new Roman Empire? They just really wanted to be the Romans so bad. You know, all the enemies of Rome wanted to be Rome. You know, even the Ottomans were like, I think they claimed to be the new Rome after Mehmed conquered, and in so many parts of the West claim to be the successor of Rome. I'm telling you, it's just funny that how much they wanted to be Rome and yet were so hostile and did everything in their power to kill the Eastern Roman Empire. And then even going as far to try to make the Eastern Roman Empire it's like almost its own separate entity from the full empire in the West, which doesn't make sense. Like I said, it's like if a kingdom or an empire just loses half of its territory, then everyone acts like it's a completely different thing. It's really not. Byzantine Rome is just Rome. It's the other part that didn't fall and continue to exist. So, yeah, honestly, it is appropriate to just call them the Romans, because they are the Romans. They're not a completely different thing, you know? That's why sometimes when people are like, the Byzantines were the successor of the Romans, I'm like, they just were, you know, the Romans. I'm not sure if successor is the right word, just the continuation is, I feel like, a better term, because it's still part of the OG empire, like, you know? I don't know, I know I'm kind of, like, rambling now, it's just complicated, but yes, the term Roman, and calling them that, is the right way to refer to them. But I also just call them the Byzantine era of Rome. That's how I kind of refer to it as myself, but you know. Okay, so let me be precise that Carolingian monarchs who snatched the imperial title from the Byzantines in 800 are not shown in this video. Neither is the Holy Roman Empire. It makes sense, it was neither holy nor Roman nor an empire. So that makes sense. The false Rome doesn't need to be mentioned. Or as I call them, the wannabe Rome. The same thing applies to both the Ottoman and Russian empires, who claim to be the Roman successors again. Just everyone wanted to be Rome, and they were bitter because they weren't. So that's why they hated the Byzantines. Okay, co-emperors, co-regents are not shown either in order to make the video easier to follow and understand. Okay, that's fair. Some events you may see are estimations, as information about them are rough and unclear. That's fair. Excuse me. The capital city, which is not written but represented by a symbol of a crown, remains Constantinople for the whole duration of the video. Patriarchates, which are 3 until year 451. Rome, Antioch, and Alexandria are increased to 5. Constantinople and Jerusalem are added. They are shown by the Chi symbol. Okay. Okay, yeah. Alright, this is easy to follow. Okay, following the administrative reforms of Emperor Diocletian had introduced within his empire, the Tetrarchy in year 293 being the main one, the Roman Empire saw his fate changed forever. The government of the empire would now be divided into the hands of 4 persons, 2 seniors and 2 juniors, without dividing the empire itself. Tensions between those emperors eventually soured, and one of them triumphed over the others, Emperor Constantine the Great. Emperor Constantine was the man that not only changed the course of his empire, but also the fate of the world itself. Okay, under his rule, the empire was snatching from paganism to Christianity. The change had already begun with the Edict of Milan, and enacted in 313, which gave the Christian religion a legal status. From 313 onward, clergy were exempt from municipal bonds, while courts were allowed to intervene in civil affairs. Murdering slaves was now a crime, and Sunday was made the weekly rest day. The council was held in Nicaea in the year 325, whose goal was to fix issues which were dividing Christianity then, such as the issue of heresy. Constantine had paved the way for Christianization. Nevertheless, Christianity was made the state church in the Roman Empire, much later with the issuing of the Edict of Thessalonica, which ordered the subjects of the empire to profess the faith defied years earlier in Nicaea, mainly based on Trinity and the recognition of the authority of the magisterium of the Catholic Church. The Roman Empire was split upon the death of Emperor Theodotus in 395 and left to remain divided and never again be made whole. Constantine, which had been made Constantinople, which had been made capital by Constantine itself, in year 330, remained the capital of the city for the rulers of the Pars Orientalis fort, the duration of the Byzantine Empire until its fall in 1453. Theodotus had divided the empire between his two sons and gave Honorius the western part, and gave Arcadius the eastern part. Alright, they had like a bit of a control there, but was losing some territory and then beat back. Alright, things have been pretty stable. I mean, other than that little incident there, things have been pretty stable, so I apologize for my silence. Oh, snap. Okay, so yeah, definitely, you do notice some incursions into the Balkans, but they managed to beat them back, but there is starting to be incursions now. Okay, so when they gain these, the main coloring is obviously purple, but when they have these lighter shades of purple, I assume this is where they gain vassalage, or at least influence over a territory. Like they're vassals, or they just have some type of influence, because it's not fully integrated into the map, you see. So, that's what I'm assuming. I could be wrong about that, but I'm assuming it's like they have influence of an area, or at least that they have vassals there. Yeah, so things are going pretty chill in the Empire right now, eh? Yeah, I'm just waiting for the mic drop moment where everything starts falling apart. Probably after Justinian's conquest, right? But for the most part, things are going pretty chill. Justin. Oh, okay, we're getting closer to Justinian, bro. I'm really looking forward to that, because I feel like that's when things are gonna, like, dramatically change. Ooh, okay, I noticed some shifting here in the east, near Edessa. A little bit, but I notice it. I'm keeping my eagle eyes locked on this map for any little change I can find. So, okay, so the Theodosians and the Leonids, I have to say, these two dynasties had things pretty chill for the most part. Like, you know, even the Leonidids had the Gassanids, I guess, vassalized or something, so for the most part, stable and not bad. Oh yeah. Okay, we're here now. Justinian. Okay, there's a lot of battles eastward, as you can see. Okay. Alright, holy crap. Yes. My goodness. Yeah, Italy was, Okay, so we're watching the exploits of my main man Belisarius here. You know, can I be frank with you guys? My least favorite series we've ever covered on this channel was Epic History's Belisarius one. And not because it was bad, but because I hated watching Belisarius continually get screwed over by everyone. He constantly being disgraced, constantly, you know, being removed from his position and his rank, conquering Italy and then getting disgraced, losing Italy and not being given the sufficient means of taking it all back. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I feel like Belisarius got treated like crap and he deserved better. And while I do like Justinian as emperor, I'll admit his treatment of Belisarius is probably the one thing I don't like about the guy. I kind of was like, not cool, dude, you know? And, so yeah, overall, I just have to say that, you know, Belisarius was such a Chad, and him and Justinian together came closer than anyone has to reunifying the whole Roman Empire. No one has come that close since those two. So I feel like Belisarius definitely deserved more respect, in my opinion. And again, it's so funny to see just how Italy was such a hard place to hold, you know? For the Romans, right? Their original place of origin, and yeah. Again, Italy, you see the most change, especially here in Italy, where whenever they get it back, instantly loses. So yeah. Just look at that, man. The progress is astounding. In just one reign, you know what I mean? Really astounding progress for a Justinian. And Belisarius. Alright, Justin II. Rip Justinian. Yeesh. Yeah, okay, back to losing Italy, huh? Oh, and yeah, the east is... there's more people coming from there. Yeah, so, definitely Justinian and his reign was the zenith of the Eastern Roman Empire's existence, at least in a territorial aspect, because again, he came closer than anyone else to reunifying the empire, with the help of Belisarius, but, you know, like, the thing is, often heard it said, Justinian's successors lost all his gains, or at least a lot of it, and you can kind of see it. Though I've heard some people blame that Justinian's rapid expansion wasn't good. Some people have argued, I'm not arguing, but I've heard some people argue that the Byzantines under Justinian overstretched more than they could actually realistically hold. And again, there were things, you know, like the plague, for example, that didn't help. But some people say Justinian's expansion actually probably wasn't good in the long run for the Romans. I don't know about that, but that is something I've heard. I thought I should at least share that. And again, his successors couldn't hold onto his gains. But it was under Justinian and the Justinian dynasty that you do see the most rapid change, because the dynasties before Justinian, not really any major territorial change. Pretty stable overall. It's the Justinians where you see the rapid expansion, but now we're kind of starting to see how unstable those conquests were, and how his successors couldn't follow up on it, you know? Ooh, oh, the Balkans, holy crap. Yeah, so it's interesting. The Justinian dynasty is where they had the most growth, but also you're seeing a lot of loss. It's like the stability of the previous dynasties is now gone, and now you're starting to see when things start getting more hard mode for the Eastern Romans, that the game switches to hard mode now for them. Alright, so the situation got better. I noticed that, oh no, not focus, but, um, okay, after Justinian's, some of his heirs, you notice that there was a territorial loss in Italy, and there was a lot of struggle here with the Balkans, even a group getting close to Constantinople itself, so now the west is starting to become a bit more unstable. They were growing on the east, though. On the eastward side, things are going much better, but yeah, the westward, you're starting to see some instability, especially in the Balkans area. Oh my gosh. Never mind. Okay, the east is... Yes, Heraclius. Heraclius, heck yeah. Okay, that was the non-dynastic era under Focus, who was kind of a piece of work, to put it nicely. But now we have Heraclius, because now, and his war with the Sassanids, right? My goodness. Look at that mess. All that territory being lost. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, that's painful to look at. And then he comes back. That war with the Sassanids, what was it, like 28 years or something? I forgot exactly. It was a few decades, I'm pretty sure. And Heraclius kind of came into power in a really bad situation and helped turn it around. And really helped defeat the Sassanids and restore the original borders. Which makes what's about to happen a lot more tragic. My goodness, the Balkans, dude. Yeah, and there it goes. There we begin. The loss of everything. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I want to comment about Heraclius. You know, I know people regard him as a failure at his reign, and you know, I've heard very unkind things about Emperor Heraclius and the Heraclian dynasty, but I'll talk about Heraclius the first for this one. You know, I think the guy got screwed over by fate or something. Like, his rebound of defeating the Sassanids was kind of legendary. And again, what makes it tragic is that the Romans and the Sassanids wore each other out. Wait, it is the Sassanids, right? Or am I thinking of Warband? Wait, Rome versus the Sassanids. Okay, so so yeah, I think his rebound of beating back the Sassanids and restoring the borders pre-Sassanid War was kind of amazing and beyond inspiring. But the two great empires wore each other out so bad that it gave the Muslims the opportunity to kind of essentially just jump them at the same time. They were that weakened. Like, you know, how was anyone supposed to predict that a random new third party would join in and just, you know, like I said, like, you know, how was he supposed to see that coming? And you know, I feel like it's a shame because it's not like it was. Again, who could have seen that coming? And also, he just got done finishing a great war, and now the Romans were so depleted, it gave the Muslims an easy advantage of picking off a weakened enemy, and just took their stuff. And then, you know, people regard him as a failure. Like, I remember I talked about how he kind of reminded me of some ways of Gallienus in terms of just the sheer bad luck he had. And, you know, some people, I remember it was in the Dova Hadi videos where I made that comparison and someone was all like, was more mean towards Belisarius, like, oh, not Belisarius, Heraclius, like, oh, don't compare him to Gallienus, but, you know, Heraclius was a failure and all that. I was like, what the heck? Like, you know, like, am I the only one who just is more like, I don't know, I mean, granted, yeah, under his reign they did lose the East, but like I'm just saying, like that was a bad turn of events. I don't see anyone else could have fully rebound from, you know, like completely caught off guard by the rise of the Muslim expansion and Islam, and yeah, like essentially got screwed over by fate in a sense. So I'm much more sympathetic towards him, and you know, I think he deserves a lot more slack than I think some people want to give him, and that's just my opinion. I don't know. Do you guys hate him and think he's a failure, or are you more on my side in this and thinking, oh, you know, he got screwed over by fate, to put it nicely, and you know, I just think it sucks that he wins the war against the Sassanids. Everything for the most part is restored back, and then he gets jumped by the rise of Islam. It's like, that sucks. That's some of the worst fate and luck I've ever seen. I don't know, just my opinion. I'm more sympathetic towards the guy. I don't think he deserves the bad rap that some people give him, you know? Wow, go for you, Justinian. Definitely more eastward. Okay, they lost. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I think I remember from the early Muslim expansion series you watch by Kings and Generals, Justinian starting off well, and then bombing near the end. I remember all that now. Ooh. Back to Justinian. Yeah. And the Romans, just like that, lost all their holdings, both in the African continent and basically the Middle East, right? And Spain. Like, that's the end of that. And now they're kind of just for the rest of their history going to be relegated to the Balkans and Anatolia. I didn't realize for how long Anatolia was out of, like, look at how long this good chunk of Anatolia has been gone. For, like, Anatolia, they've lost a lot of territory from there for quite a bit, actually. So, yeah, that kind of puts it into perspective. Yeah, we're zooming in now. Because we're done, we're not going back to the Africa and stuff. Yeah, and for the most part, the rest of its history, it's gonna be regulated to these areas, right? Yes. Leo III, I think his legacy is overshadowed by the iconoclasm problem and issue he decreed, which had a lot of religious effects, like the Pope eventually breaking free from the hold of Constantinople and etc. I have to say, though, that I was impressed by him because the dude managed to outwit the Muslims and help save Constantinople. So, you know, I definitely do feel like his legacy is a bit overshadowed by that issue, the religious issues of his time, but I do think I do give him a lot of props for essentially getting the Muslims out, you know, and securing Constantinople. Oh snap. Ooh, snap. Oh. Okay, good on you, Constantine. Getting back a lot of the Balkans under their reign. Yes, Irene and the many religious troubles she got into. Nicephorus. Are we getting close to my main man Basil? Hopefully. Pretty sure we are pretty close. Ooh. Dang. Yeah, the Balkans are the main theater of the territorial change so far now. Okay, so that's the... Okay, I want to talk about the Isaurians? The Isaurians? The dynasty. Okay, so from the time... From Justinian, the Justinian dynasty, throughout the Heraclean dynasty, these two dynasties so far are the ones where the most dramatic change and losses happened. The first two, why am I struggling to say that? The Theodosian dynasty and the Leonids, these two were relatively stable. No dramatic changes, just stability for the most part. Justinian, huge rapid expansion, but wasn't sustainable, so there was loss, mainly in the Italian one, but there you do see the shifting of territory. And the Heracleans is just everything starts freaking falling apart. And the 20 years anarchy, it isn't until the Isaurians under Leo III, who I think deserves a lot of props, managed to make stability for the most part. He stabilized the east, making Anatolia into a fortress, so you didn't see any dramatic change on this front. So again, stability to a degree has returned under the Isaurians dynasty, and even a bit of growth at the same time. Like the Balkans, a good part of it was restored back. Granted, there was still a loss on the Italian front, but overall, I would say that the Isaurian dynasty brought back a lot more stability and a lot more better growth compared, to the rapid changing borders of the Justinian and Heraclean ones, between its rapid growth and loss. So overall, I feel like the Isaurian dynasty was overall pretty good success, especially in making Anatolia more stable. I feel like that's... I'll talk more about Anatolia when we get there, but I have a lot to say about this region. But now we're at the Amorians. Amorians? The Amorians, I think is how you say it. Alright, still some pretty stable for the most part in the Amorian era. There is still being lost here in Syracuse, I noticed, but yeah. Okay, Basil. Oh wow, they're making good headway in Italy right now. Though they did lose Syracuse. Overall, I would say from the again, you notice that the Assyrians under Leo, I said, they create a lot more stability in the long run compared to, again, the Justinian through Heraclian through 20 years anarchy area, where that was the most rapid change and loss. I really do think Leo deserves some credit. For the most part, things did get a little better. The Balkans, and more stability. Obviously, Anatolia for the most part has been relatively unchanged. Though there is still loss. I'm not ignoring the loss, like Syracuse and parts of Italy. But for the most part, I'd say the main areas, like around the Balkans and Anatolia, you'd stop seeing dramatic loss and, you know, change. So that's I think that's a pretty good victory for its own right. So yeah, so far, and I know the Macedonian dynasty is probably hailed as one of the best. They're definitely making good comeback in Italy, gaining more territory, so that's good. Oh. Yeah, Syracuse is lost. For the most part. They only have like a little sliver there. Again, relatively stable. Guys, look at this. Though there are losses, I'm not saying there aren't, it's just, you know, for the most part, not too dramatic. Kind of vibing with the music though. Oh, and they're losing more territory in the Balkans. Oh snap. Okay, never mind. This ability is starting to get weaker there. Ooh, no, the Balkans, holy crap. Dude, Constantine, get your head in the game, bro. You've lost most of the Balkans already. Oh my gosh. Dude, Constantine, man. This guy's reign is a lot of loss. Like, even freaking Constantinople was threatened. Okay, Romanos has at least taken Crete back. So that's good. Okay. Nicephorus. Okay, stabilizing Anatolia. Okay, good. Need to fix things after Constantine. Okay. Oh, snap! Good on you, John. Wow, look at how much John has done. Good job, John. You have taken a good amount of the Balkans back. This is what makes the Romans unique, especially in their Byzantine era. Like, they'll lose territory, but then they'll rebound and take territory back. So it's not like it is a continual decline, but it's also one that's being fought against at the same time. Like, they'll lose, rebound, like, it's kind of amazing. Like, they didn't die so easily. They kind of kept fighting back the inevitable, which makes them which is just classic Roman resilience on display, you know? Yes! Basil the Bulgar Slayer! Heck yeah. We did cover the Basil series by History March. A really good series. I highly recommend you to check out my reactions to it. But yeah, one of the greats of the Byzantine era of Rome. Oh no, Italy. Dang, look at Basil go. Dude, that's why Basil's one of the greats, dude. Basil finally helped bring, like, take most of the Balkans back under the Roman banner, considering how much the Balkans had become such a unstable ground with so much territory and how much enemies encroached. The fact that he restored this is just nothing short of amazing. Definitely one of the best of the Byzantine era of Rome, you know? Ooh. Yeah, Anatolia is starting to be pierced now, all of a sudden, you see? Yeah, now it's starting to be pierced a lot.
I lost a lot of weight.
Ooh, yes, this is... Oh, yeah, that's bad. All under Michael, right? Let me get that again. That all happened under Michael. Tisk, tisk. Okay, so this is what I wanted to talk about. You know, I think that, like, there's a lot we could talk about when, like, the death knell of the Eastern Roman Empire was really solidified. I think, personally, this was it. I think the loss of Anatolia was the real point of no return. And obviously, I'm speaking in hindsight here, because the moment Anatolia was pierced... Okay, but first, let me get back to this. So, under Leo III, who managed to repel the Muslim invasion and siege of Constantinople, Anatolia became pretty stable from the Assyrians all the way to now, the Dukas. Anatolia basically was very stable. No one was piercing it, and they basically turned Anatolia into a fortress. I believe a big part of that is the Dema system, or the Themes, which made Anatolia basically like anything, like again, like we saw throughout most of this video, impenetrable. And I think holding Anatolia was the most important things that the Romans needed to do in order to survive. Because the moment they lose Anatolia like this, they never fully claim it back. The Turks are basically here to stay, and obviously, as we're speaking with hindsight, eventually we know that the group of Turks that eventually enter Anatolia, mainly the Ottomans, are the ones who deliver the death blow to the Romans. So I think, personally, it wasn't the loss of, like, Egypt or the Middle East, like Syria, that did them in. I think if the Romans could have held Anatolia like they were doing up until now, they could have survived, in my opinion. They could have continued to exist. I think this is what really sealed it. Because again, speaking with hindsight, as we know, the Ottoman Turks eventually go on to kill the Romans. So I think if they could have held Anatolia and keep anyone from entering in like they were doing for the most part, again, I think Rome would have survived, guys. And also, just think about this. The loss of Anatolia is what prompts the Crusades, because Alexios essentially helps organize the Crusades, and the Crusaders, as we know later on, that basically starts the Crusades as we know it. And as we know, in the Fourth Crusade, the Latin West cripples the Roman Empire, kills it, and then they come back from the dead. But after the Fourth Crusade, the Romans were never the same. They never recovered, you know, after the sack of Constantinople. And again, this all stemmed from the loss of Anatolia. It led to the Crusades, which eventually led to the fourth one, which really crippled the Romans, and it led to the Turks and the groups that would eventually kill the Romans right in their own back door, as it were, the Ottoman Turks. So I think that this is where the death of Rome was 100% solidified, in a sense. Obviously, I'm speaking with hindsight. The Romans at the time couldn't have known that for sure. But again, in my opinion, this is the moment. This is the point of no return. The loss of Anatolia. Anatolia was the most important region of the Eastern Roman Empire. Losing that was it for them. I don't know, do you guys agree with me on that? Or do you think that there's another point of no return? I think it's Anatolia's loss. That's just my opinion, though. So yeah. It's all happened under Michael. Yes. Alexios is my favorite emperor of the Byzantine era of Rome. I really love Alexios. He's my favorite. After watching the first Crusade series, and he just became my favorite. He's my favorite. Let me know, who's your favorite Byzantine era of the Byzantine emperor? You know what I mean? Yeah, Alexios inherited such a crap show, dude. And despite all these challenges, he had to fight back really hard to get them. Yes. And again, Alexios, despite inheriting such a bad state of the Roman Empire, did a lot of work to help reclaim a lot of lost territory. And that's just amazing, you know? Like, his reign wasn't smooth. You see all these, like, losses and incursions, yet he came back swinging. So, again, my favorite emperor of the Byzantine era. And again, Alexios did a lot, man. It's a shame he couldn't fulfill his dream of taking all of it back, but I believe him and a few of his immediate successors did go to work on trying to get back Anatolia, or at least good portions of it, but again, it was never the same, guys, unfortunately. I'm amazed they still have a holding in Italy, like, this whole time. I didn't know that. Good on you, John. Holy crap, look at that. Yeah, John made a lot of good moves. Again, I've heard a lot of praise for the Komnenos dynasty, and you can see it from Alexios to John, just John on two fronts, taking back a lot of the Balkans, and now making moves in Anatolia. Like, you can see why the Komnenos dynasty gets a lot of praise, right? Especially from these two. It's a shame, though. They did lose their final holding in Italy, and the Romans would never again be in the place of their origin. It's a little sad. But again, look at how much John has accomplished already. That's still amazing. So close to taking all of Anatolia back. So close. And look at, dang. Unfortunately, under Manuel's reign, a lot of the vassalage of the East is now being chipped away. Okay, so I've heard things about Manuel. You see that little, he made some incursions into Italy here, but now they're gone. Wait, let me look at something. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, incursion. Okay, I just want to make sure I was using the word correctly. Point is, you see, I had heard that Alexios and his successor John put a lot of effort in trying to take Anatolia back. And Manuel the First didn't make that same effort, and I've heard the reasoning was because I believe around his reign is when the Second Crusade happened, and he was eyeing the West as the more immediate threat and the one he should put more effort into. And I get that, okay, I can see that reasoning for sure. I'm not saying he sucks or anything, I'm not, I swear. But again, I'm just speaking from hindsight. He probably should. I've heard some people say he probably could have taken Anatolia back if he had tried. I'm not sure, but if so, it's a shame he didn't. Because again, I think taking Anatolia and holding it was probably their only chance of surviving in the long run. Um, I mean, Pandora's box has already been open, but I think not finishing the job in Anatolia probably, like I said, I think losing Anatolia in general is what really did the Romans in. So, again, that's just my opinion. And I guess in hindsight, Manuel if he could have, probably should have, taken Anatolia. So let's see, so wait, give me a second. But yeah, then again, that the thing is that once they lost Anatolia the first time under Michael, probably the damage had already been done, the decline. So either way, I don't mean to say like Manuel was a failure or even wrong. I'm not saying that. Um, I guess like I said, in hindsight, maybe focusing more on Anatolia probably may have been better. Again, I'm speaking from hindsight. Obviously, he doesn't know the future. But then again, I can't say I disagree with him for being weary of the West and the Crusaders. And again, that's kind of the problem with how Rome is situated at this point. It's basically between the world. Whatever comes from the East and whatever comes from the West, it's gonna hit the Romans, so they kind of have to pick their battles and who to focus on at any given time, which makes their situation so unique, because again, the Eastern Roman Empire is essentially in the center of the world, and what I mean by that is, like I said, whatever comes from the East or the great kingdoms of the West all have to intersect with the Romans in between both East and West. So it really made them, like, geographically speaking, such an important center hub of just the world at the time. So, it's just very interesting. Oh wow. They tried going. Yeah, you notice Manuel, he tried going back into Italy but was repelled, and now he tried around here in Egypt and Syria and failed. So he did try to make some expansions, but it didn't work out apparently. Oh, dang. Yeah, now we're seeing, under Alexis and Andronikos, right, the territory starting to now be eaten away. Oh my gosh, yeah, now they're starting to lose everything. Okay, the Angelos dynasty is now everything's falling apart again. Oh man, that sucks. Oh, okay, they're fighting back a little in the Balkans. Oh, oh. Boy, we've been here for a while, huh? Like over an hour, holy crap. Ooh, yeah. Oh my gosh, this is like Fourth Crusade era, right? Yeah. This is where it's like, they were already playing on like legendary hard mode difficulty, but it like ramped up now. It went from hard mode to legendary mode in an instant, right? Yeah, yeah. The Angelos dynasty, where the difficulty was already hard mode, but then they leveled it up. God leveled up the difficulty to legendary. So I kid. But still, this is a bad situation. Alexios. So heck yeah. I remember when we watched the Fourth Crusade series by Kings and Generals, and I was so on the edge of my seat the entire time. Like, man, the Romans essentially got obliterated by the West and had to crawl back from the grave, which is kind of amazing. Again, how many empires have had comebacks like this? Granted, though, like I said, they were never the same after the Fourth Crusade. It's often attributed as just a weakening point to where the Romans could never recover, you know? But still, it is amazing they came back at all. And this is what makes the Romans Romans, dude. They don't die easily, they don't give up. They have a setback and they crawl back from it. That's what makes the Romans so awesome as a group of people. Like, there'll never be another Rome like this, you know? I'm digging the music throughout this entire video too. This is like the lock-in music. This is when you lock in and just go for it. Man, they fought. Like, the Romans are still fighting, man. I didn't hear no bell, you know what I mean? That's basically the Romans' entire existence. I didn't hear no bell. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, we arrived to the Ottomans yet? I think we have. Ew. You know, the moment he started playing the somber music, you knew it was over, right? This somber music, the moment he played it, it's like, yeah, yeah, we're done. It's not coming back. There's no rebounding from this because we're in the Ottoman expansion now, and that was this is it for the Romans. Again, I told you guys, losing Anatolia, that was I think that was the point of no return in hindsight. And the Turks getting in is what really, in the long run, overdid it, huh? They're not even on Anatolia anymore. They lost almost all of it. I mean, there's still some little territory, but you know. Dude, John, bro. Ooh. Oh my gosh, everything's being lost under John right now. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think this John is the one I got comments about, like talking about how bad of an emperor he was. Because he lasted a long time, and he lost a lot of territory while lasting a long time. He reigned a long time, I mean, you know? Dang. Dang, dude. This is always the part that gets me most of all. Just watching the Romans. Essentially, that was kind of the saddest part of watching the Ottoman Rise series by Kings and Generals. It's just like watching the Romans essentially get bullied into nothingness and crushed into like just a city now, you know? And again, they had some little comebacks here, like with this Thessaloniki, and but it wasn't enough. This was finally a situation they couldn't rebound from. And considering all that they endured, the Sassanids, the Muslims, the Fourth Crusade, so many things happened where the Romans, where you think it was over for them, and then they would somehow find a way to crawl back and rebound, but this is finally the one where they just couldn't. The Ottomans were the ones that they couldn't, like, you know, defeat. You know, I think there is no empire grander than the Roman Empire, in terms of luck and fortune, the Roman Empire achieved levels that other empires envy and wish they could achieve. But at the same time, I think they're also the unluckiest empire to ever exist. Because while their highs were some of the highest that no one has been able to replicate, their lows like this are some of the saddest. And I guess the word is pathetic, watching their emperors essentially turned into beggar kings asking the West for help, you know? So again, no empire I think achieved the heights of the Romans, but also achieved the misfortunes as well. The luckiest and unluckiest empire to ever exist. But man, was it a great run. And again, look at it, they're still fighting. It's like watching like some heartbeat come back and they're like, you know, we can rebound. We can still rebound. And then the Ottomans are like, nope. It definitely is sad watching, like later on when we see the late Roman emperors just kind of going around Europe and basically begging people to help them, only to, you know, essentially be left left for dead. And again, there's still some beats of life, like here taking the Peloponnese, Thessaloniki. Like there's some breaths of life still. Like this empire doesn't want to die, but it's still like, you know, it's like watching someone on their deathbed struggling to still exist. That's kind of how sad it is to watch these final years and stages of the Romans. And still making headway in the Peloponnese. I think this is under Constantine, the final Roman emperor, who was making a lot of headway in the Peloponnese and into the Balkans, but eventually the Romans set their eyes and were like, nope, fought back. Not the Romans, the Ottomans. You know, Constantine was the best last Roman emperor that the Romans could have asked for. He was honorable, he had an impossible situation, and he fought until the bitter end. He wasn't cowardly or like, you know, weak. I think he faced essentially. He went out like a warrior, he went out like a true Roman, fighting against impossible odds. So I think Constantine was the best person to be the last Roman. Rip Rome. Dang, dude. And that's the end, huh? That's it? Like, nothing else? So yeah, guys, now, why does he have Jeffrey Dahmer as his... Never mind, forget. that was weird, but, yeah, I guess L in the chat, or F in the chat for Rome, guys. Yeah, rest in peace. I think I've talked long enough. I shared all the thoughts I needed to in this really long video. Rest in peace, Roman Empire.